Hello everyone, today I'm going over the Manticore Primary weapons in Elite Dangerous Odyssey. As with my previous pistols review, this is again going to be my personal opinions on the weapons, what I like and dislike, and my opinion on how they can best be set up and used. There is not going to be any in-depth discussion about the weapon stats or their DPS and such. It's going to be more my general feelings about the weapons, what I prefer and why. All of the weapons I'm reviewing have been upgraded to level 5 and have been fully engineered. Okay, let's get on with the reviews. First up is the Manticore Executioner. This weapon is a semi-automatic plasma rifle intended for long-range combat. These are the engineering mods that I have added. Faster handling speeds up the movement animations of the rifle, so it is quicker to draw and to holster, but more importantly for the Executioner, it also speeds up the aim down sights or ADS animation. This means you can scope in and out quicker and fire quicker whilst retaining good accuracy. This mod is highly recommended for the Executioner. Stored reloading is more of a personal choice. It could easily be swapped out with reload speed if you prefer to load manually. The reason I choose stored reloading over reload speed though is because it's faster to switch weapons and continue to fire with another weapon than it is to reload. If you are in the middle of a firefight and you run out of ammo, then reloading takes around 2 to 3 seconds depending on the weapon. I can switch to another weapon in about a quarter of a second and be firing again, whilst my stored weapon is then being automatically reloaded for me. Reload speed only reduces the reload time by about half a second, so even using that mod, you are still looking at a much longer time before you can fire again than if you had used stored reloading and just switched weapons. If I'm not in the middle of a firefight, then I will often reload manually myself. In those cases though, I'm not in any rush to reload, and the difference between a 2.5 second reload and a 2 second reload doesn't make any difference to me. So for me, reload speed is nowhere near as beneficial as stored reloading is. Next is magazine size. This is a pretty obvious choice for every weapon to be honest. More bullets is always better. Last is audio masking. This means the weapon is silenced when used outside. As this is a long range weapon, I'm mostly picking people off from distance, which means outside. With this mod, the Executioner is a great option for stealth missions. Pair it with a Tormentor that has noise suppressor and you'll be a silent assassin indoors and out. This is some of my gameplay using my Executioner. It's fantastic at picking off people long distance, though because of the low projectile speed, you do have to get used to leading the target. It's one shot to take down the shield and another to finish them off. You don't need a headshot, the shots can be anywhere on the body. Whilst I do enjoy picking people off from the rooftops, this weapon is also very usable in medium quarters, and even in close quarters from time to time, although you don't want to be using ADS in close quarters. This is my go-to weapon for taking targets out silently and stealthily, or for taking out large numbers of enemies from a distance. I find it incredibly satisfying to watch all the enemies fall one by one. If I had to pick a favourite primary weapon, it would be this one. As you can see in this gameplay, I do enjoy using it. I give this weapon an easy 5 out of 5. The next weapon is the Manticore Intimidator. This is a semi-automatic plasma shotgun intended for close quarters combat. It has a very small clip but does huge damage. These are the engineering mods that I have added. The first is greater range. This is pretty much an essential here, as the range for the shotgun is very limited. Increasing it a little is very much needed. Next is stored reloading, which I have already gone over. The same goes here as before. Switch it out for reload speed if you want, but I recommend stored reloading. Next is magazine size, again essential here. The default clip size of 2 is very limiting. By increasing it to 3 with this mod, you are essentially adding 50% more damage per clip. Last is the scope mod. While this mod does increase the zoom when in ADS, it also has a surprise benefit for the shotgun in that it actually reduces the projectile spread. This means that more of the projectiles will hit the body you are aiming at and it will do much more damage. This is absolutely an essential mod for the Intimidator. With this mod added, you can take an NPC's shields and body down in one shot, whilst ADS at very close range. It's literally a one-shot killing machine. This is some of my gameplay using my Intimidator. As you can see, it can be very deadly in close quarters. it still packs quite a punch towards medium range as well. Taking out a small group of enemies is very possible in extreme close quarters, though you won't want to be trying to use this weapon at the far end of medium range or beyond that, as it loses its impact very quickly at range. I love getting in close to unsuspecting hostiles and taking them out before they know what's happened. The Intimidator is the best weapon for close quarters combat, and if I'm in the mood for some CQC, then this is my go-to weapon of choice. I give this weapon another easy 5 out of 5. The next weapon is the Manticore Oppressor. This is an automatic plasma rifle intended for close quarters combat. It has a substantial clip size, but does not do a lot of damage. These are the engineering mods that I have added. The first is headshot damage. This is an essential here for me, as the default damage from the rifle is not great. Increasing it for headshots is very much needed and increases the damage to a more acceptable level, so long as you are hitting those headshots. Next is stability, again essential here for me. The rifle does have a considerable jitter by default, which this mod helps to reduce. Next is magazine size, not essential but still a very good choice. The default clip size is substantial, but upping it to 75 with this mod is so much better. Last is stowed reloading, which I've already gone over before. The same goes here, switch out for reload speed if you want to, but I recommend stowed reloading. This is some of my gameplay using my Oppressor. With this weapon it's much harder to place in the rankings because it can be just as bad in some situations as it can be good in others, once it's fully engineered at least. I certainly wouldn't recommend this weapon to a beginner, or even for someone who is getting good at on-foot combat. The damage is way too low, especially beyond extreme close quarters. As you can see, it is possible to take out enemies from distance, but it will likely take all of your clip to take one hostile out. This kind of gameplay is not what this weapon was intended for though. The Oppressor can be quite deadly in extreme close quarters, though it very quickly loses its punch, becoming much weaker even at fairly close quarters. You won't be taking out a group of enemies with the Oppressor, but you can take out isolated enemies if you get in very close and go for headshots. You can see from this video that when I say the Oppressor works well in very close quarters, I do mean in very close quarters. I'm sure you can understand why I wouldn't recommend this weapon to most people. However, if you are very experienced with on-foot combat, if you have already mastered combat movement, use cover effectively, and can hit headshots 80% of the time or more, then using the Oppressor is actually good fun. I love using it when I'm in the mood for it, which isn't that often because using this weapon is quite focus intensive. It does take a lot of very tactical gameplay, getting it in close to isolated enemies, and then some very fancy dance moves once you are in close to avoid being hit. But once you do get close, the Oppressor is capable of hammering them to death quite effectively. I also think this is one of the best looking weapons in the game, which makes using it even more enjoyable. Just like the Intimidator, I love getting close to unsuspecting hostiles, dancing around and taking them out whilst they are struggling to get a shot on me. It's very satisfying and is worth the effort for me. So if you have the combat experience and are capable of putting in that kind of effort, then I would recommend the Oppressor for you, despite its flaws. For everyone else, just use the Intimidator for close quarters. It's much easier, you're less likely to die, and you'll enjoy it more. With all that in mind, I give the Oppressor a rating of 3 out of 5, both recommended and not recommended depending on your combat abilities. Well, that's it for this review. If you enjoyed the video or it was helpful, then please do hit the like button as it will help the video get seen by others. In the next FPS weapon review, I'm going to be covering the Karma AR-50 and the TK Eclipse, two primary weapons that are often paired together for combat. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. Until next time, see you out in the black, Commanders. 07.